Picture this: a faint hum of crickets outside my window, the kind of sound that sneaks into your soul on a still Ohio night, pulling at memories you didn't even know you had. I'm Jennifer, 29, tucked into the corner of a life I built with my own two hands, or at least thought I did. I live in a quiet, suburban neighborhood, where the streets are lined with identical houses, each one a little more tired than the last. My home, a modest two-story with a patchy lawn that never quite greens up, sits like a silent witness to the years I've spent here with Mark, my husband of 7 years. He's 32 now, but when we met, we were just kids in college, barely old enough to know what love meant. I can still see us back then, huddled over textbooks in the library until the early hours, sharing cheap coffee and whispered dreams. We bonded over those late-night study sessions, laughing about professors and plotting a future so bright it almost hurt to imagine. We promised each other everything: a house, a family, a life where we'd never feel alone. And for a while, we believed it. Mark's best friend Ethan came into the picture early on. He's 31, a mechanic with this easy, laid-back charm that makes you feel like you've known him forever. He's been around since the start of our marriage, always showing up with a wrench in hand or a story to tell, filling our home with a kind of warmth I didn't realize I'd come to crave. Our house itself tells a different story, though. It's got this worn-in feel, from the creaky stairs to the garage stuffed with Mark's half-finished projects. Old car parts, broken furniture, dreams he started but never saw through. It's a mess out there, just like the lawn, and sometimes I think it mirrors us. Stagnant, stuck in a loop of what could have been. These days, Mark and I barely talk. Our evenings pass in a heavy silence, him glued to his phone or working late at the office, me just existing. I sit at the kitchen table, staring at cold dinners, feeling like I'm more of a piece of furniture than a person. Invisible. It's not anger I feel, not yet, just this hollow ache, like I'm waiting for something I can't name. I don't know when it started, this drift between us, but it's there, widening every day. I've tried to fill the void in small ways, confiding in my best friend Lila. She's 30, a single mom and a nurse, always juggling a million things, but somehow still finding time to meet me for coffee. She listens to my rants, her eyes kind but tired, offering advice I don't always take. Then there's Dr. Susan Carter, my therapist. She's in her 50s, sharp and direct, but with this quiet compassion that cuts through my defenses. I've been seeing her for 6. I wake up on Saturday morning to the pale light creeping through the blinds, the kind of gray that promises nothing but more of the same. My chest feels heavy before I even swing my legs out of bed, that familiar emptiness settling in like an uninvited guest. I shuffle to the kitchen, the house so quiet I can hear the faint drip of the faucet as I start the coffee maker. Mark is still asleep upstairs, probably sprawled across the bed, oblivious to the world. I stand there, watching the dark liquid trickle into the pot, and wonder when our mornings stopped being something to look forward to. The silence in this kitchen used to feel peaceful. Now it just feels like a void I can't fill. When Mark finally trudges downstairs, his hair a mess and his eyes barely open, I try to spark something, anything. I lean against the counter, clutching my mug, and ask if he wants to go for a walk, maybe grab lunch at that diner we used to love. My voice sounds hopeful, even to my own ears, but he doesn't look up from his phone, just mutters that he's got work to catch up on, his tone flat, like I'm a coworker asking for a favor he doesn't have time for. I feel that sharp sting of rejection, a little knife twisting in my gut, but I swallow it down. I always do. I nod, force a small smile, and turn back to the sink, rinsing out my mug like it's the most important task in the world. Inside, though, I'm crumbling, wondering how we got here, to this place where even a simple conversation feels like climbing a mountain. Later, as I'm wiping down the counters for the 3rd time that morning, Mark mentions that Ethan's coming over in the evening. They're going to work on that old Chevy in the garage, the one they've been tinkering with for months, a project that seems to get more of Mark's passion than I do. I just nod, not thinking much of it. It's routine by now. Ethan showing up, the two of them disappearing into their own world of tools and engine grease. I spend the rest of the day trying to keep busy, cleaning the house even though it doesn't need it, dusting shelves and vacuuming floors that are already spotless. I text Lila while I'm folding laundry, venting about how I feel like a ghost in my own home, drifting through rooms that don't even notice I'm here. Her replies are quick, sympathetic, but I can tell she's distracted, probably chasing after her kid, or rushing through a shift at the hospital. Still, just seeing her words on the screen makes me feel a little less alone, even if it's just for a moment. By late afternoon, I'm back in the kitchen, trying to make myself useful. I pull out a bag of chips, whip up some dip, and grab a 6-pack of beer from the fridge, setting it all out on the counter for when the guys are done in the garage. It's a small gesture, setting out snacks and drinks, but it's something I cling to, a way to feel like I'm still part of this house, this life. The evening rolls in slow and heavy, the sky outside turning a bruised shade of purple as I hear Ethan's truck pull into the driveway. His boots crunch on the gravel, a familiar sound that somehow eases the tension in my shoulders, if only for a second. I watch from the kitchen window as he and Mark head straight for the garage, their voices low and casual, already lost in their world of engines and tools. I linger there for a moment, the glass cool against my fingertips, before turning away to busy myself with nothing in particular. Hours pass, and I'm in and out of the garage, bringing them beers, exchanging a few words here and there. The air out there is thick with the sharp tang of motor oil, mixing with the faint earthy hum of crickets just beyond the open door. The dim light from a single bulb overhead casts long shadows across the cluttered space, making everything feel a little more intimate, a little more raw. I'm stacking some old folding chairs against the wall, the metal cold under my hands, while Ethan tosses the last of the empty beer cans into a rusted trash bin. Mark had gone inside a while ago, muttering something about a work call, leaving just the two of us out here. We're talking, nothing heavy at first, just bits and pieces of the past, old stories from their college days, a ridiculous prank they pulled on a professor that still makes Ethan chuckle low in his throat. I laugh too, softer, feeling the weight of the day lift just a fraction. But then the conversation shifts, slows down, like the air itself is holding its breath. Ethan turns to me, his voice quieter now, more deliberate. He asks how I'm really doing, not the surface stuff, but the kind of question that cuts straight to the bone. His hazel eyes lock onto mine, searching, and I feel exposed in a way I haven't in years. I hesitate, my fingers tightening around the edge of a chair, and then let out a shaky laugh, trying to brush it off. But the words spill out anyway, raw and unfiltered. I tell him I feel lonely, like I'm fading away, disappearing into the cracks of this life I don't recognize anymore. My voice cracks on the last word, and I look down, ashamed of how much I've just laid bare. He steps closer, and the space between us feels charged, electric in a way I can't ignore. I feel the heat of him, the solid presence that's suddenly too much and not enough all at once. My heart stumbles in my chest as he reaches out, his hand resting lightly on my waist, pulling me toward him with a gentleness that undoes me. I can't breathe, can't think, as he leans in, his breath warm against my skin. Then his lips brush the side of my neck, soft and deliberate, sending a shiver down my spine that I can't suppress. My mind screams at me to pull away, to stop this before it goes any further, but my body betrays me, frozen in place. The loneliness I've carried for so long crashes over me, a tidal wave of need and ache, and I don't move as his touch deepens, as he draws me closer into something I know I shouldn't want. It's not about desire. Not really. It's desperation, a fleeting escape from the emptiness that's been eating at me. My hands tremble as they find his shoulders, not pushing him away, but holding on, just for a moment, as if this could fill the void inside me. Time slows, the world narrowing to the sound of my own ragged breathing and the warmth of him against me, but it doesn't last. Guilt slams into me like a freight train, sharp and unrelenting, and I finally find the strength to step back. My voice breaks as I whisper, "We can't do this." The words hang heavy in the air, a line drawn in the sand I can't take back. Ethan looks as shaken as I feel, his eyes wide, his mouth opening to mutter a quick, "I wake up on Sunday morning," the weight of last night pressing down on me like a physical thing. My eyes are gritty, burning from the lack of sleep, my mind caught in an endless loop of that moment in the garage. The memory of Ethan's lips grazing my neck, the heat of his touch, plays over and over, each replay sharper, more accusing. I can still feel the shiver that ran through me, the way my resolve crumbled for just a heartbeat before guilt dragged me back. I roll over in bed, the sheets tangled around my legs, and stare at the ceiling, wondering how I let myself fall so far. Mark's steady breathing beside me only makes it worse. Each exhale a reminder of the life I'm betraying. When I finally drag myself downstairs, the kitchen feels like a minefield. Mark's already there, sipping coffee, his eyes flicking up as I shuffle in. I can't meet his gaze. I'm terrified he'll see it, the shame, the secret, etched into every line of my face. I mumble a good morning, busying myself with pouring cereal I don't even want, my hands trembling just enough to betray me if he's paying attention. Thankfully, he's not. He grunts a reply, lost in his phone again, and I'm both relieved and hollowed out by his indifference. I sit at the far end of the table, staring into my bowl, the silence between us thicker than ever. My phone stays dark, no messages, no calls. Ethan's absence in my inbox is a double-edged sword. Part of me is grateful for the space, but another part, the anxious, spiraling part, wonders what he's thinking, if he's as torn up as I am. The next few days blur into a haze of routine, a desperate attempt to outrun my own thoughts. I throw myself into work at the clinic, answering phones and scheduling appointments with a forced smile, my voice clipped and mechanical. Patients come and go, their complaints and small talk washing over me like static. After hours, I run errands, grocery shopping, picking up dry cleaning, anything to keep my hands busy, my mind occupied. At night, I cook dinner, stirring pots and chopping vegetables with a focus that borders on obsession, as if perfecting a meal could somehow fix the mess inside me. But it doesn't. Every quiet moment, every pause, lets the guilt creep back in, a cold hand tightening around my heart. I see Ethan's face in every shadow, feel the ghost of that forbidden closeness, and I hate myself for it. Late one night, when the house is too quiet and my thoughts are too loud, I call Lila. I'm curled up on the couch, a blanket draped over my shoulders, my voice barely above a whisper as I spill everything. The words tumble out, jagged and raw, as I tell her about the garage, about the way I let myself get pulled into something I knew was wrong. I brace for her judgment, expecting sharp words or disappointment, but instead, there's just this heavy, quiet concern on the other end of the line. She listens, really listens, and when she finally speaks, her tone is gentle but firm. She tells me I can't keep this buried, that I owe it to Mark, and to myself, to face it head on. "Talk to him, Jen," she says, her voice steady. "You can't carry this alone." I nod, even though she can't see me, tears stinging my eyes as I clutch the phone tighter. But the fear of confessing, of shattering everything, paralyzes me. I tell her I'll think about it, but deep down I know I'm not ready. A few days later, I'm sitting in Dr. Carter's office, the familiar scent of lavender from her diffuser doing little to ease the knot in my chest. I fidget with the hem of my sweater, avoiding her piercing gaze as I talk in circles. I mention feeling trapped, stuck in a life that doesn't fit anymore, but I stop short of the truth. I can't bring myself to say it out loud, to admit how I crossed a line I can't uncross. She tilts her head, her eyes narrowing just. It's a rainy Thursday evening, 2 weeks after that night in the garage, and the world outside my window is a blur of gray streaks, the kind of weather that mirrors the storm inside me. I'm in the living room, perched on the edge of the couch, a book open in my lap that I haven't read a single word of. My eyes keep darting to the clock on the wall, each tick a hammer against my nerves. I've been dreading this moment, knowing that the secret I've carried like a stone in my chest can't stay buried forever. The guilt has been a constant shadow, whispering in my ear every time I look at Mark, every time I pass by the garage door. I've tried to act normal, to keep up the charade of our quiet, broken routine, but it's like walking on glass. Every step cuts deeper. The front door creaks open earlier than I expect, and my heart lurches into my throat. Mark steps in, shaking off the rain from his jacket, his face already set in a way that tells me something's wrong. He doesn't say a word at first, just hangs his coat on the rack with a deliberate slowness that makes the air feel heavier. I close the book, my hands trembling, and force a smile that feels like it might crack my face in two. He doesn't return it. Instead, he crosses the room and sits down across from me in the armchair, his posture rigid, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that pins me in place. I can barely breathe as he leans forward, elbows on his knees, and says in a low, measured tone, "Ethan called me earlier today. He sounded off. Asked if everything was okay at home. So, I'm asking you, Jen, is there something I need to know? Did something happen between you two?" My stomach drops, a sickening free fall, and the room seems to tilt around me. I open my mouth to deny it, to throw up some flimsy excuse, but my voice betrays me before I can even form the lie. It cracks, a jagged edge of panic slicing through, and I feel the hot sting of tears welling up, spilling over before I can stop them. I shake my head, stammering, "No, it's not. There's nothing." But the words choke in my throat. I can't hold it in anymore. The dam breaks, and everything I've been hiding comes rushing out in a flood I can't control. I tell him about that night, the moment in the garage when loneliness and desperation pulled me under. I confess to the fleeting closeness, the way Ethan's touch, soft, searching, brushed against my skin in a way that wasn't just friendship, a moment where boundaries blurred into something forbidden. I make it clear it wasn't about passion or wanting more, but about feeling seen, noticed, after years of fading into the background of our life. My voice is raw, breaking on every word, as I admit how I stepped back, how I stopped it before it went further, but how the weight of even that brief lapse has crushed me every day since. Mark's face changes as I speak, hardening into something I've never seen before, a mix of hurt and fury that cuts deeper than any words could. He stands abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor, and starts pacing the room, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. His voice rises, sharp and bitter, as he spits out, "Selfish. That's what you are, Jen. Do you have any idea what you've done? Everything we've built, everything we've fought for, and you just throw it away for a cheap moment of what? Feeling something?" Each accusation lands like a blow, and I'm sobbing now, my hands pressed to my face, trying to explain through the tears. I tell him I didn't mean to hurt him, that I've been drowning in this emptiness between us, that I made a terrible mistake and I've hated myself for it every second since. But he cuts me off, his voice a harsh bark. "I can't even look at you right now. I can't." He stops, his breath ragged, and it's been a month since that stormy night when everything shattered, and I'm still picking up the pieces of a life I barely recognize. I'm in a small apartment now, a cramped one-bedroom place that smells faintly of old paint and echoes with the kind of quiet I'm not used to. It's nothing like the house I shared with Mark, with its creaky stairs and memories tucked into every corner. This space feels barren, the walls bare and the furniture sparse, but in a strange way, it's a relief. A clean slate, even if my chest still aches with the weight of what I've lost. Mark's staying with his brother across town while we navigate the jagged edges of a divorce. The word itself feels like a blade, cutting through 7 years of promises and dreams, leaving behind a raw, open wound that hasn't even begun to heal. The conversations we've had since that night have been brutal, mediated by lawyers in sterile offices that smell of coffee and regret. We've sat across from each other at polished tables, surrounded by legal jargon and cold professionalism, and finally aired out the resentments we buried for so long. He spoke of my silence, how I withdrew into myself over the years, never telling him how deep the loneliness ran. I countered with his neglect, the way he checked out of our marriage long before I ever faltered, leaving me to fend for myself in a house that felt more like a cage. And then there was the betrayal, the moment in the garage that became the breaking point, the crack that split us apart for good. We didn't hold back in those meetings, each word a release of pent-up pain, but it didn't fix anything. It just made the hurt more real, more final. I walked out of every session feeling hollowed out, like I'd left pieces of myself on that table, pieces I'm not sure I'll ever get back. I haven't heard from Ethan since everything came to light. Word through mutual acquaintances is that he's moved to another state, putting miles between himself and the mess we made. I've also heard that he and Mark haven't spoken since that night. Their friendship, another casualty of my mistake. I don't reach out. Don't even know what I'd say if I could. The memory of that fleeting, forbidden closeness still haunts me, a reminder of how far I fell in a moment of weakness. It's not something I can undo, no matter how much I wish I could turn back time and walk away sooner. In the midst of this wreckage, I've leaned hard on Lila. She's been my rock, showing up with pizza and packing tape to help me move into this apartment. Her laughter a small light in the darkness as we unpacked boxes late into the night. But it's not just the physical stuff she's helped me with. She's been there to unpack my emotions too, listening as I ramble through tears about guilt and loss. She doesn't sugarcoat things, doesn't let me wallow too long, but she also doesn't judge. She just sits with me, her presence a reminder that I'm not as alone as I feel. Then there's Dr. Carter, who's been a lifeline in her own way. In our sessions, she's guided me through the tangled mess of shame and self-blame, helping me see that while what I did was wrong, it came from a place of deep, unmet needs. She's pushed me to look at the bigger picture, to understand the years of neglect and invisibility that led me to that breaking point. It's not an excuse, she's clear about that, but it's an explanation, a way to start forgiving myself even if Mark never will. I've started journaling lately, scribbling down thoughts in a worn notebook I keep by my bed. It's messy, full of half-formed sentences and tear-stained pages, but it helps. It's like I'm spilling out the chaos in my head, making space for something new. I've also taken to long walks in the early mornings, when the world is still quiet and the air feels crisp against my skin. I wander through the neighborhood, past houses I don't know, and faces I don't recognize, letting my mind drift as my feet carry me forward. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.